So, as a prelude, I think the source of this particular beef between these people, between Ethan Klein and Blaire White, is that originally Ethan Klein took down a bunch of videos that he did with Jordan Peterson because Ethan Klein's views have changed. Jordan Peterson says some wacky shit, hangs around with some bad dudes, and his general is a bit of an optical mess at the moment because all he posts is anti-vax climate denial stuff, whilst also having to cope with the fact that a lot of his fan base are members of the alt-right. So it's not great. It's not a great look being seen to be permissive of Jordan Peterson. So he took the episodes down, and then Jordan Peterson said, "Oh, this is just cancel culture," and then whole internet blew up. And I think Blaire White made a video about that, which was originally called something like Ethan Klein thinks he's smarter than Jordan Peterson, which I'm not sure really is the case, but I guess we'll get into it in the video. Regardless, I digress. Let's actually watch this video, and then we'll see what the meat and potatoes is. Let's go.
All right, guys, welcome back to a new video. Today, a new challenger appears in the form of Blaire White, who released a video today about me called Ethan Klein Thinks He's Smarter Than Jordan Peterson and Healthier Than Joe Rogan. Now, of course, anyone who's familiar with that,
have more context.
This is like the straw man that all the conservatives have been doing to try to invalidate valid points I've made. Let's see if she actually addressed any of the points I've made, or if it's just more of the fat man bad, strong man good dialogue that we've seen over and over. Obviously, I never made any of those points. I don't think I'm stronger than Jordan Peterson or healthier than Joe Rogan. Something I can't get over, too, is how all these people use, like, obviously funny images I've taken of myself as some kind of own to show how unhealthy I am. But anyway, if you guys don't know who...
It's true. They just go like, here's like this professionally taken photos of Jordan Peterson looking like some kind of like savior of humanity and some kind of intellectual titan, and then Joe Rogan is this just kind of beefcake, right? And then juxtapose that. I mean, to be fair, that's just kind of Blaire White's modus operandi at this point. You look at that J.K. Rowling video that she's got to just the right-hand side, where it's got, ooh, person in crazy makeup versus very normal J.K. Rowling. She's very clear taking the most unflattering pictures that she can use of people that she wants to discredit as part of her thumbnail, because she knows that her audience are already going to be primed to hate the person that she's trying to criticize, without relying on rhetorical technique or facts or statistics or what people are actually saying, because she needs to prime her audience to that first. And to be fair, that's just kind of the nature of YouTube. So she's, at the end of the day, she's just responding to an incentive structure. But still, especially when the amount of times that she does it to other trans people to try and get in the good books of TERFs, right? So that's basically what she's doing. She's trying to be the one good one. If you watch the cringe CrunchPoints video for a full expose on that. But regardless, it's interesting editorializing that Blaire White engages in there to try and prime people's views, specifically to try and discredit the side of the argument that she disagrees with before they even have a chance to be able to give their side of the argument, even when it's through Blaire White's commentary.
Blaire White she is a trans person who I would say she attacks other trans people. Okay, let's just be straight up. She defends people like J.K. Rowling, who are straight up TERFs. And actually, one of her biggest controversies was attacking a trans athlete and lying about her, saying that she was competing against biological women and like taking huge dubs on tournaments. And she turned it into a whole kind of talking point about how, you hear this all the time in conservative circles, trans athletes are ruining sports. And anyway, she actually just lied about this trans athlete. And I actually think she's just a bad person. Like, I'll just be...
It's a really great expose about how much Blaire White just factually incorrect in a lot of the videos that she makes and statements that she makes, where she just literally like straight up lies and completely fabricates the information she puts into her videos. There's a D'Angelo Wallace expose that's like 50 minutes long, also well worth watching. It turns out Blaire White is an absolute snake and a piece of shit, and no one should ever trust her about anything.
Straight up, I actually do.
I realise the irony of priming the audience by telling them that straight up, that's my opinion of Blaire White. But I think if you go and watch those videos and come to your own conclusion, maybe your opinion might come closer to mine, given the overwhelming evidence against Blaire White as not only a grifter, but also completely dishonest, and just very shameless as well.
And I don't know what it is, but she very much gives me pick me girl vibes. She's the kind of person who's like, she wants to be part of the club on the right wing. So she goes, listen, I may be trans, but I'm one of the good ones, guys. I'm not into all this woke stuff. Like, wanting to use a women's bathroom and all that. I don't know if she actually believes that. I'm just being facetious. But she does. She's basically made her career criticizing other trans people and being like, I'm one of the good ones. Like, here, let's look over top ones. I regret transitioning. Heated debate with a trans predator, exposing Jessica Yaniev, trans predator. Like, this is kind of her bread and butter. So here we go. Pick Me Girl. By the way, she posted this on Instagram. No comments disabled. Very nice. Here's the thumbnail she chose. Sure, buddy.
I don't know why she chose that picture of herself. I hate to be the one to criticize the way somebody looks. I mean, if I can look at me, right? I'm in no position to criticize anybody. But even so, like, the face that she's making there, it's not flattering, Blaire.
Yeah, I love that, dude. Yeah, Ethan says he's stronger than Joe Rogan and smarter than Jordan Peterson. Well, that's just a pathetic title, isn't it? I mean, look at the size of Joe's nipple, bro. Ain't no way I'm competing with that. All right, well, let's take a look. What do you guys say? Let's see. I'm sure this is going to be a rational, measured take on everything I had to say about Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. So, there you go. Not like other girls. Blaire White.
I'm enjoying the content here, filtered through Blaire White, filtered through Ethan Klein, and then also filtered through me. It's a nice Ouroboros we've got going on there.
Please love me, conservative daddies. I'm not like all the other ones.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm feeling very virginal in this outfit today. I'm feeling very much like, a bride being given off to her husband, or a bride of Chucky, depending on if you hate me. Let's get into it. Ethan Klein, also known as H3H3, which sounds like a highly impactful.
Let me go. Here, I'm just going to make a prediction right out the gate. She's going to be like, H3H3, who I used to like before he got woke. Wait for it, dude.
Just SCD has been going off recently on two particular individuals, Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan. We're going to split this video into two halves. The first half talking about his attacks, although I would say they're more like brutal self-owns.
Oh, I can't wait to hear how their brutal self-owns.
Launched toward Jordan Peterson, and the second half will be his brutal self-owns on Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah.
Ethan went off on Jordan Peterson on Twitter recently, and it really rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I have chafing just from reading these tweets. Okay. He also went back and deleted videos of an interview he did with Jordan Peterson from years back, in my opinion, out of the fear of being canceled by his own woke audience.
Again, people say that. There's literally no proof of that. Nobody was asking me to erase it. They've been up for a long time. A lot of people even disagreed in my own community, like, hey, you didn't have to erase those. You should have left them up. This was my choice. I'm not getting canceled for leaving the podcast up. Don't be ridiculous, dude. Nobody expected me to erase those.
Which he does.
Also, since when did Ethan Klein have a woke audience? Since when was H3H3 ever, like, a woke show? If anything, it became famous for the triggered memes and the fact that he was very much part of the kind of, wasn't really like an anti-SJW per se, but he was definitely part of the anti-SJW sphere and definitely kind of mocked that kind of side of things. And I think he still does to the same extent nowadays, right? He's still pretty irreverent in his commentary. He's not one to kind of tiptoe around particular issues like that. I understand that Hassan has kind of shifted his political outlook since they've been doing Leftovers together or whatever, but even so, like, they never had a particularly woke audience, and we should just have casual viewers.
Pander to, which he does and has cultivated throughout the years. Because Ethan, in my opinion, as sort of like a casual...
I love that. Having any conviction of any kind is pandering, right? Ooh, he's pandering. Yo, that dude thinks that people should have healthcare? She's pandering to the left.
Every once in a while viewer of his stuff is definitely one of those people who shapeshifts into whatever is trendy and socially acceptable at the time in terms of his content. He used to be way edgier, way more.
Love that. The old standard, bring out my worst moment where I said offensive things on the podcast. Bring that right out the gate. I mean, that wasn't egg. I wasn't trying to be. Yeah, I guess I was being.
I think the thing is that she's making allegation that you're a grifter here, Ethan, right? She's saying that you don't genuinely believe any of the kind of socially kind of progressive things that you say or the left-leaning positions that you take, because you think that there's a bigger market out there for more kind of progressive critiques of what's going on nowadays. And the answer to that is just like, that's just not true. That's just not true in the slightest. The biggest political commentator on YouTube is Steven Crowder. If you want to be able to make money shilling for anti-progressive narratives, there's loads of money, there's loads of exposure just waiting for you. You can just go find the Koch brothers, find the Wilkes brothers, find the Heritage Foundation, just go, I want to make anti-SJW content, and they'll pump it into your veins. They'll put it straight into the algorithm. Look at, remember that, do you remember that black guy who got filmed in a school board meeting getting angry about critical race theory, and turns out it was all fucking planned. He was the one who brought the camera, and he was the one who filmed himself so that he could become become famous on the internet. All the way, and before that, he was already a YouTuber. He was already a content creator, and he used that and then just went on Fox News at blam, suddenly he's got a career. If you want to have a career in like rightoid media, they'll literally fucking throw money at you. All they want to do is be able to spread their messages everywhere. Look at fucking Gilly Politics that I covered before, having interviews with people who have like, you know, hundreds of thousands of subscribers while she has like less than 1K, because all they care about is just disseminating their message by any means possible, and by trying to take control of the narrative by having so many avenues with which to perpetuate it. And they have enough money with which to do that, because that's all they really care about, is continually generating shareholder profits. As far as, you know, the actual right-wing seed money people are concerned, apart from the Heritage Foundation, are a little bit more kind of ideologically based rather than incentive based, right? So it's so easy to just get like a right-leaning career like that. If you're saying like, well, he just has to grift to be able to get views, that's not even true. That's not even close to true, Hitler.
Being edgy, but okay, fair enough. I used to be more edgy, that's true. But also, to be fair, all of YouTube used to be more edgy. But that's not to say that was not good edgy. That was just bad edgy. You know what I mean?
Or anti-SJW, anti-woke.
I mean, I think it was pretty funny edgy, to be honest. Like, there was some ifs and buts and some bad takes, but in general, I think it was, you know, pretty harmless, pretty amusing.
Whatever you want to call it, whatever label you want to put on it. And now he's definitely the exact opposite. When it was more popular and trendy to be anti-SJW, edgy, whatever, you can bet your ass he was that. And now that it's more popular to be woke and super politically.
It's not more popular to be woke, okay? Joe Rogan has the most popular show in the world.
True.
Jordan Peterson is like, dude, everybody loves him, okay? This whole narrative that, like, I'm doing the popular thing is crazy. They just want to be the victim. They want to be the underdog, but you guys aren't the underdogs anymore. You guys are like the mainstream. Yeah. So if you actually are familiar with my content, you know that my politics never changed. I was making fun of social justice warriors who everyone was making fun of. You know, you look back at the Czar and stuff, that was objectively funny. And I've explained this many times. Those people were wild. They were great fodder for commentary. And then when I realized I was cultivating a more kind of extreme reactionary audience is kind of when I pivoted. And it was painful, right? It was a painful separation. A lot of people unhappy. And you see even to this day, people are like, oh, H3 used to be funny back when he was one of us. And basically that's kind of what this all stems from here today.
Opposite.
But even so, like, your actual political positions of Ethan Klein never really changed. He was always a Bernie Sanders supporter. It was probably the tweets that he made out in the run-up to the primaries where people started losing kind of faith in his kind of what he was perceived to be a kind of right-wing outlook that he had. When it was like, well, no, because obviously on an economic basis, I believe in, you know, good things for working class people. I believe in universal healthcare, all that kind of stuff. So he was never really like a rightoid per chance. He just found SJWs cringy, which, you know, they were cringy. Sure, you can just make critiques of how cringy they are without using that to defame the whole movement or the actual kind of points that they're making, or the overall slant or the overall goal of the progressive movements that they were a part of.
When it was more popular and trendy to be anti-SJW, edgy, whatever, you can bet your ass he was that. And now that it's more popular to be woke.
And now that it's more popular to be a white nationalist, and now that it's less popular to be a white nationalist, he totally believes in free democracy.
Super politically correct. You can bet your ass he's that. And these types of people always give the excuse of, well, I've evolved, I've grown, I've learned more. It's funny how they always...
Oh, I've learned, I've evolved. How pathetic. Nobody's allowed to change ever. As everybody well knows. A wise man never changes his mind.
Evolve, grow, and learn more in the exact direction that...
And it happens every time. Like, anytime anybody changes their political outlook, even slightly. Like, for example, you look at the way in which people treat Hunter Avallone nowadays, despite the fact that, you know, at least when he's looking at the positions that he takes now, even if he is a grifter, even if he is just doing it for views, which you wouldn't expect so, considering how many subscribers he's lost on YouTube, although, to be fair, he does have a big TikTok following now that he's become a little bit more socially progressive, so who knows? Either way, at least when he's trying to present his points now, he backs it up with studies and data and tries to at least be a little bit empirical. Whereas when he was a conservative, he was just kind of parroting talking points. And to be fair, Hunter Avallone, when he was on the right, he was when he really did feel like a grifter at that point, where he was just being put into Turning Point USA conferences, just being kind of flown around, you know, the USA, doing all of these things as being a popular influencer for the right, for, you know, kind of right-leaning points of view. Again, with the money coming from the top. So, I mean, I would be much more likely to believe that someone like Hunter Avallone is being sincere in his left-wing politics now, than when he was being incredibly conservative. Like, it is what it is.
gets them more popularity or is...
How dare someone... Yeah. Oh, how dare somebody evolve and learn and grow more towards progressive and social issues, dude? That's not a natural... that's not the natural effect of things, is it? I've learned, I've grown to become more hateful, less inclusive. Yes, you hear that all the time, don't you, Blaire?
more socially acceptable, never in the opposite way. Like, they never all of a sudden have more controversial opinions or become more edgy.
Why?
It's always
He did.
with the wind. You know what I mean? So anyway, Ethan
That's
tweeted,
literally the definition of progress. Okay, just to be clear. Conservatives always lose. Progress is the winds of change, my friend. Without progress, without liberalism, we'd have slaves. Okay? Just be straight up. Women wouldn't be allowed to vote. That's just the way it is, dude. It's called progress. You know what conservatives are? Reactionaries. They want the status quo by their own definition. Okay? I've always been a
Well,
progressive.
no, I mean, reactionaries. Obviously they are disagreeing with social progression, but they believe they dislike social progression. Like conservatives would disagree with social progression for progression's sake, which I think is something that Blaire White would agree with. Whereas a reactionary doesn't like any kind of social progression at all, and they're just kind of tied philosophically to some previous existence that they identify pretty heavily with, and they see any change of that as being bad based on the fact that it is not what the kind of structures that they adhere to. Like, by being outside of that, it is bad. Whereas a conservative would usually say that we need to check social progress with traditionalism. I think there's a line to be drawn between being conservative and being reactionary. And I think it's correct as well to say that progress is not inherently a good thing. You can have bad progress in the same way that cryptocurrencies are bad progress. They're progressing past like centralized currencies in a bad way. They're making it less regulated and merged into like a casino, as if you watch the Dan Olsen video, it explains pretty heavily, right? So I think this is pretty reductive from Ethan here, but even so, like, I think that broadly he's correct.
And that's what can I tell you? Okay, I'm sorry I didn't turn into a white nationalist like you, lady. I don't know if she's a white nationalist, but that's what it all kind of, the undertones you always get in these conservative movements. Let's just be frank here, guys.
So anyway, Ethan tweeted, years ago, I interviewed Jordan Peterson before I was very familiar with his politics. He was an interesting guest who I enjoyed sitting with. So right off the bat, this is just a lie. Jordan Peterson, at the time that Ethan interviewed him, was only popular for his takes on trans issues, which are definitely perceived to be controversial.
Yeah, so her saying this is a lie is basically just her having... Okay, I'll explain, but I mean... No, I didn't know anything about his politics. First of all, Jordan Peterson was a very popular speaker. He was making his tour all around podcasts and YouTubers getting huge views. People were talking about him. The honest truth is that Moses was a huge fan of Jordan's. I didn't know anything about him. And I think he was listening to him on Joe Rogan. He's like, hey, you should reach out to this guy, Jordan Peterson. I was looking for guests, for interesting guests. He said, you should see if this guy, Jordan Peterson, will come on your show. I said, okay. I tweeted him right there on the spot, and Jordan responded. He said, sure, I'll come on the show. And people were really excited in my tweet, too. There was just a lot of enthusiasm. So I said, okay, cool, let's do this. I actually didn't know anything about his politics until much later on.
And also, even so, like, he was... I think it is a misconception that Jordan Peterson didn't have some kind of public persona before the whole Bill 16 shit. Like, he was having some speaking gigs before then, because clearly he's a very kind of talented rhetorician, even if the stuff that he says is fucking insane, right? Like, there's a not widely shared enough a video, because it's very fucking funny, of Jordan Peterson wearing a fedora and complaining about how people don't like nice men anymore. Clearly, what's happened here is that we're not getting... If you want to not date the nice guys anymore, they're just going to turn bad to be able to want to get your attention. And the females of our species have betrayed the overall... dating manuscript that we used to adhere to, and now we're going to have to go on with good men that have been turned bad by women who expect too much from them. It's very, very funny. I've got to find a fucking picture of this. Yes, that's the one. Where right there, not enough people seen this old video of Jordan Peterson where he wears a fedora and rants about women always dating assholes instead of nice guys. Yeah, so he already had like some level of speaking career before now, right? Before the Bill 16 shit, which obviously really kind of catapulted him up with his completely banal misunderstanding of what Bill C-16 actually entailed, because, it's not what he said it was going to be. But hey-ho, I digress.
Who are more left of center. So this was literally his claim to fame. Jordan Peterson became known because of his...
Actually, you know what? She's right. She's right on this point. I should have done more research and familiarized myself with him before bringing him on the show. So I could have at least challenged him on things that I disagreed with him on. And that's part of the reason why I removed those podcasts, is because there was no challenging. There was no, it was basically just him platforming himself in the rosiest colored way possible. So actually, she's right in the wrong way. I didn't know anything about his politics, but I should have. So I guess she's right and wrong at the same time.
Opposition.
I think that speaks to the nature of this whole platforming discussions that's been having. All of the Mr. Girl drama, all of that malarkey that's been dominating the kind of Twitch politics space, Viv was talking about with Lauren Southern, etc. And we talk about the way in which we platform, what is responsible platforming, right? And if as long as you're pushing back against, competently against any kind of views that are abhorrent that you're platforming, I don't think there's any issue in that, right? And I think Ethan is well within his rights here to make a distinction between just blithely platforming Jordan Peterson to allow him to spew out whatever views he's got without any challenge, and also having a conversation or a discussion with Jordan Peterson where you actually challenge the things that he says on regards to these issues. That's why Joe Rogan is such a massive problem. Because he doesn't challenge anything. He only challenges it when he disagrees with it, right? When you looked at the the anti-vax shit with regards to myocarditis, when he was just refused to accept that the data that he was being shown that contradicted what you already thought was true. He just couldn't. He just dismissed it outright, like continually trying to find reasons with which to stick to his previous premise before this, far more educated person than him that he had on his show showed him how wrong he was. And that's not what he does with Jordan Peterson. Like, Jordan Peterson come on his show and say, well, actually, if you look, everything is the climate, and if everything is also the climate, and you can only predict what happened in the past year's climate, not in the future, then you can't really actually have a climate in the first place, or some other stupid shit that he said. I don't remember the exact quote, obviously. That's my rambling there would suggest. I do not remember the original quote. But he's allowed to go have this platform with Joe Rogan to unchallenged spout literal climate change denial, or isn't it what the fuck he's talking about? Because he's not an environmental scientist, he's a clinical psychologist. And that's why it's so crazy that he gets so much airtime to speak on political issues that he just doesn't understand. You're right, Bilderberg, how you doing? Hope you're doing well.
To Bill C-16 in Canada, which we can do a whole video about Bill C-16.
I love, this is the pick me attitude of her. I'm one of the good ones. Yeah, dude, that bill that was like trying to protect trans people from.
Although it's being accentuated by the fact that her hair just like goes like straight down.
Hate crimes. That was terrible. Yeah.
The long and short of it was, Jordan Peterson's perspective was that people would start being fined or jailed for misgendering people, for using the wrong pronouns, and the opposite side believed it was just a bill that was to increase the human rights of trans people. That's the long and short of it. So this is what he was known for at the time.
That's a fair assessment.
Ethan had to have known that this is what he was known for, was controversial takes on trans issues. So
that's a fair conclusion. I'll give it to her. It's not true, but
yeah, I'm not doing too bad, Bilderberg. I'm looking forward to this hippy dippy panel tonight. Should be an absolute fucking mess. Hopefully, I'm going on first, so I'm actually really disadvantaged in the kind of the way that they're kind of functioning, like the panel, the way it works, because I think they're replacing 5 people or 4 people each time, or 5 people each time. So as I'm having it going there at the start, I have to get through like 5 different sets of removals to be able to try and stick it out to the end to win the precious hippy dippy main show place or whatever. But it should be fun at the very least, because I have some takes on the EBT issues, so it should be interesting to get to. But with regards to what's just been said here, I just paused the video. The right point anyway is that like our side were correct with regards to Bill 616. We were correct. It wasn't if you misgender someone you'll get fucking arrested. It was just adding trans people to the list of protected characteristics that you can't specifically target in the same way that gay people, people based on sex, people based on religion, you can discriminate, and that is just the same thing. It was just the same thing as that. It was just adding trans people to that list of protected characteristics. That's all it was. It wasn't some nightmare compelled speech, misgender crime, pronoun police, jail time nightmare scenario that he had kind of painted it to be and catastrophized over all over the media. Fingers crossed, Bilderberg.
But it's a fair conclusion.
This, I didn't know anything about him. First of all, you probably shouldn't be interviewing people you know nothing about. And second of all,
right,
that was the only thing people did know about him at the time. So
that's not true. Actually, she's right. I gotta admit, she's right on this point. No, Jordan had become a prolific speaker in his own right by that time.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right, Bilderberg.
I agree. That's what made him famous. But I think I interviewed him like a year or even 2 years after that whole controversy.
What the fuck are you talking about? The truth is, he was fully aware of Jordan Peterson's politics. He just wanted the massive.
Now she's just making weird, wild assumptions about what I didn't and did not know. As someone who clearly doesn't even watch the show or know me very well.
Amount of views that this interview was going to bring him, and it did. And to this day, any interview Jordan Peterson does is going to get a massive amount of views. He is a very popular man. So you wanted the views, you wanted the money.
He is very popular. I love him. Please love me, Daddy Jordan. That's true. It was more popular than I anticipated. But if I cared so much, why would I erase them now? They're still I'll be honest, they're still 2 of our top most viewed episodes. People love those episodes, And part of the shame is that as they were, because we didn't talk about politics or anything controversial, they were great in terms of psychological insightfulness and self-help and stuff like that and relationship advice. There was a lot of great information there. My problem with them was that someone would watch the video, be like, this guy's awesome, and then go to Twitter and see him being like, telling Justin Trudeau over my dead body will I get a booster shot, and like much worse stuff.
Money, but of course you don't have the integrity to say that. You're gonna lie and say, well, I didn't know much about him. Girl, bye. He goes on to say, but especially now,
Even so, who cares? Like, he's a YouTuber. His job is giving himself exposure to try and increase his subscriber count. What the fuck else do you think he was doing by inviting a big name speaker on to try and talk about these issues? Like, content has to come from somewhere. Like, that's such a banal criticism, saying, well, you did your job in the way that is most convenient for yourself. Oh, sure, I guess Ethan did. Well done, Blaire. You've worked out how YouTube works.
can see he's a dangerous gateway to alt-right, transphobia, and COVID misinfo. I removed both interviews today. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the man who ran a podcast with Trisha Paytas is clutching his pearls over harmful speech.
Okay, so obviously Trisha Paytas is an offensive person. She is not a thought leader. Nobody's watching Frenemies and then going to Trisha and then being like, I want to follow her. Trisha doesn't have dogma. She's not, you know what I mean? She's not leading anyone anywhere. People know that Trisha is bad and has bad thoughts and bad opinions. I mean, that's part of what was entertaining about it. So that analogy falls flat for me. People go to Jordan Peterson to follow him. I mean, the guy's practically a cult leader. So no, nice try. Bye, sister, or whatever she said. Bye, girl, or I don't know, whatever you said back.
By Felicia, Ethan. But even then, like, was Trisha offensive in a way that was specifically geared at, like, minority demographics? I don't know. I've never watched any Frenemies. From what I'm aware, she's just a bit obnoxious, right? I think there's a difference between those two things. But again, I could be wrong. I've not watched any Frenemies to be able to give you a proper opinion on that.
To you. Whatever you say sticks to you and not me. Got him.
Hitler can't be all bad if he had this big
Yeah.
following.
I had no idea.
I really love movies and books about the Holocaust.
What's the stereotype about Jews? Like, my cheap Jew boyfriend with big nose. I don't say that.
Jewish people are cheap.
But again, he didn't care because
By the way,
There's a difference between making large statements about entire groups of people who you're trying to be able to marginalize based on, you know, a certain law that's coming in, right? And you making a joke about someone being Jewish when they're Jewish right next to you as a bit of is she really that bad? Okay, fair enough. Well then, again, I blame my own ignorance.
regularly challenged and called her out. She wouldn't come on and say all this anti-Semitic stuff and I'd be like, oh, interesting, fascinating. Yes, no, I regularly challenged her, called her out, exposed her for those horrible takes. So again, falls flat on its face. Bye, girl.
because Trisha was making him a lot of money because at the time she was in the public's favor. So not only does this condemnation of Jordan Peterson that no one asked for, by the way.
No, what do you mean? I only talk when spoken to? I'm sorry, that's only for you, nice girl. You only talk when spoken to by Daddy Jordan and Rogan. You only give opinions that are authorized by the collective there. No, unfortunately, Blaire, I don't always wait for requests to express myself. In fact, if I did, I probably wouldn't have a career. Bye, girl.
Like, no one was trying to cancel him for it.
You just self-reported. Nobody was trying to cancel him. And yet I spoke my mind. I did what in my consciousness was the right thing. Self-report, you just contradicted yourself. You said Ethan was just doing what everyone wanted him to do and appease the woke culture. But also, nobody was asking for this. Okay, so which is it? Bye, girl.
Not only does it make Ethan
But even regardless of whether she's like specifically YouTube famous or whether Dr. Peterson is a public figure, right? If she is being given a platform with which to spew anti-Semitism without challenge, that would be an issue. But I think I covered before you joined the stream in that the big difference is that on the actual podcast that was uploaded with Ethan against Jordan Peterson, there was no challenge, there was no pushback on any views that he espoused. It was just a platform for him to be able to speak his mind without being impeded, right? It was just a soapbox with which Jordan Peterson can pontificate, which is different than him having a conversation with Trisha and being able to repudiate any kind of anti-Semitism that she does say.
look about as spineless as a jellyfish. His attacks on Peterson are also just not valid. First of all, if Jordan Peterson is the greatest sin,
If it's not valid, if you want to say that, you better show, because Jordan Peterson asked me for examples and I gave 4 very specific answers. So you better show those or you're a coward. Let's see.
if Jordan Peterson is the gateway to being alt-right or being hateful, which by the way, I didn't know it was 2016. We were still using terms like alt-right, but okay.
All right.
Like, the guy literally had to had to tell his own followers to stop being anti-Semitic and had to disavow Nazi flags at the rallies that he was purporting to be in favor of. Right? If this guy doesn't have like connections to these movements, like I don't know how else you could have connections to these movements. Like, again, just as many people have pointed out, I do not think that Jordan Peterson is any of these things. But the fact that he seemingly has cultivated a lot of people in his audience. He's definitely part of that realm. And to be a gateway to something, you don't have to be part of that demographic, right? That's what the algorithm the YouTube algorithm, the alt-right pipeline, as it were, that we used to talk about a lot on these programs. Was specifically showing you more extreme things of the things that you've already seen. And as a Christian conservative, which is what Jordan Peterson is, it would show you more Christian and more conservative things, which then pushes you down towards alt-right, right? So even if he's not part of that, he can still be a gateway to that, right? If you see what I mean?
That's totally relevant term. Am I not allowed to say that anymore? Sorry.
If someone as frankly apolitical as Jordan Peterson, because if you
Apolitical? Oh, stop. Come on, dude.
The guy had a fucking debate with Slavoj Žižek. Come on, Blaire. I mean, to be fair, she is just a fucking clown and like completely politically illiterate. So yeah, absolutely, she probably does think someone like Jordan Peterson is apolitical, because what counts as political in a lot of rightoids' minds isn't what we would think of as political. Because I mean, to be fair, a lot of leftoids, we think that most things are political, which is correct. Most things are political. You can find a political angle with which to view basically anything. I was watching a TikTok by somebody the other day oh, you think everything's political, like walking your dog could be political. And like, well, yes, I can only walk my dog in specific areas because all of the land in the country is owned by specific people. And there are plenty of places where there are no public rights of way with which you can walk your dog because they've been banned everywhere else, especially, within cities where, lots of the land is all privately owned. Right? So there's still a political angle, even something as innocuous as dog walking. I think it was a really good TikTok that this guy put out, responding to a really inane comment, saying, well, yeah, there's a political nature to everything. Whereas a lot of rightoids think that, unless you're specifically talking about party politics as a thing and laws and policy, that's not anything outside of that realm isn't politics, which just isn't true.
That's so stupid.
watch his content, he is almost always apolitical. He speaks to people on the right wing. I know that's such a scary thing. He definitely engages with them.
He was more apolitical at the time. I mean, when I interviewed him, but now he's gone full right-wing conspiracy rabbit hole. So you're just flat out wrong on that one.
But his actual content in his lectures are almost always, with some exceptions, apolitical. The majority of what Peterson talks about is self-help, self-improvement, getting your life together.
Where would we be without men and enforced monogamy? We have to force these damn women. They want high-quality men. We need to force them to date.
I think that's unfair from Ethan here. Unlike, if you are somebody like Jordan Peterson who genuinely does care about what's happening to men in our society, even if I believe he's completely wrong in his assessment that we've moved too far away from traditional gender roles or whatever, because obviously that's just not a source of what's causing issues for men at the moment, right? Even if I completely disagree with the way in which he approaches it, the idea that men's having loads of issues at the moment, that's just true. That's a thing that we should care about. But having that particular opinion is political. The way in which we view how men specifically as a demographic do not have a fair hash at things in the world at the moment, the ways in which they are marginalised, that is inherently political. So to say that he's apolitical whilst also doing this kind of stuff, that's just nonsense, Blaire. That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Threes when they really want eights.
Together, philosophy, psychology, and he dips into politics sometimes, but to act as if that's the whole sum of who and what he does, and then to say that it's radicalizing people or some sort of gateway, we can just as easily say, Ethan, that you're a gateway towards what? Far leftism, communism, radicalism on the other side. Why is it only true?
Say that about me if you want. It doesn't bother me. It's not true, but it doesn't offend me.
I mean, you could say, true, absolutely, men suffering from restrictions of traditional masculinity, that's very true, confide. But even so, I think it'd be reasonable to say that Ethan Klein probably is a gateway to socialism, considering that he hosts a podcast with Hassan Piker, who is a socialist, right? But, again, Ethan would just say, yeah, I am. Great, whatever, which, fair enough. Chad move.
That's okay. Yeah, say it. I mean, what the hell? There's no studies showing that. There's literally studies showing that Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan are gateways to the alt-right. Straight up. Dude, look it up. All these straight white nationalists, people who go up and with weapons and do crimes in that way. They're like, what was the last podcast you listened to? Jordan Peterson.
Ever of people right of center, that they're too radical. And if Jordan Peterson is a gateway towards hate, what the fuck is this? And I want to be very...
Here we go. The same thing. Me making an offensive statement is a gateway to the alt-right. Nice job, dude. Pathetic.
clear that this was obviously done in a comedic context.
But I think that Ethan again is wrong here. I think that during the kind of anti-SJW sphere, let me just have a look what that was. During all offensive things I've said, blurred and cut audio to avoid demonetization. Talked about it a bunch of times. You probably know that what she's showing. If not, it's easy to find. I'm not trying to hide this from this. I fully own all the things that are horrible I've said here. Right, so, but I think Ethan was part of the alt-right pipeline because the whole anti-SJW thing was where the whole alt-right pipeline, the whole Gamergate sphere, that's where it all started, right? He absolutely was. Even if his content was just innocuous, mocking them for being silly, which they were. I'm absolutely 100% correct that they were cringy and they were silly and they were worth mocking. The way in which that they went about what they said, right? Absolutely would agree with that. The fact that the algorithms work in the way that they do to push people towards more radical content, he would still be part of that. He would still be part of that, algorithmic pipeline. And I think that he's being a little bit running away from the issue there, so to speak.
And I want to be very
Here we go. The same thing. Me making an offensive statement is a gateway to the alt-right. Nice job, dude. Pathetic.
clear that this was obviously done in a comedic context. I'm not one of those people that thinks that context does not matter
Really? Because that's the second time you've showed it. Pathetic attempt to make a bad comparison.
when it comes to slurs or curse words or whatever. Obviously, he's not calling someone that.
Thank you
done in a
for okay. Thank you for clarifying that because I have learned. I know I'm not allowed to learn, Blaire. I've actually learned and grown. I know that's a cardinal sin in the conservativeship, but it's true. Certainly want to do that today, and I understand that what I did was horrible. I don't think it's a gateway to anything, though. It's not a platform I have.
comedic context. I'm not personally mad, but going by your own standards here, if the benign, apolitical, self-help stuff Jordan Peterson does is a gateway to hate, then again, how can you claim that?
If you think that what Jordan Peterson does nowadays is just benign self-help shit, you're not paying fucking attention, right? Let's just okay. Let me bring up Jordan Peterson's Twitter feed, right? Let's just have a look at what Jordan Peterson has tweeted out in the last however many minutes, because he tweets out every single fucking minute nowadays. It's just a long-stop slew of tweets. He never stops tweeting. This guy's addicted to Twitter, right? This is talking about the patriarchy. This is talking about the anti-vax rally. This is more anti-vax stuff. More anti-vax stuff. Yeah, more anti-vax stuff. Literally just retweeting a bunch of this thing of the truckers protest, which is going on right now. So I guess that's kind of, he would be retweeting a lot of it right now because it's it's part of the discourse. So I guess we can give him a pass. But it's just all it is just this kind of shit. And beforehand, a couple of days ago, all it was just climate change denial shit, which I responded to. There's a tweet about how to be able to help engage with Twitter in a healthy way, right? There's that one there. There's the one about critical. Actually, this is anything saying don't ban critical race theory, which is one of his better takes, but it's still a political take. You're still talking about something that was within the political sphere. So about Ted Cruz. Yeah, literally, it's just nothing but politics. All he talks about on Twitter is fucking politics. Blaire White, you're either blind or stupid or both. Probably both.
And perhaps Ethan's apologized for this, and if so, he definitely deserves to be forgiven. However,
Nice research.
you just can't throw stones in a glass.
So if I've ever done anything offensive, then I can never criticize anybody else ever. That's the argument, right? You said this offensive words, 5 years ago. You've erased it. You've apologized many times. You've donated. You've educated yourself. You've done everything you can to improve yourself. So you can never criticize anybody else ever, as long as you live. Nice logic.
Let's move on to
That's because conservatives their only argument is an appeal to hypocrisy. That's all they do. There's never any kind of substantive critique of somebody other than just an appeal to hypocrisy. It was well, you're criticizing Jordan Peterson for a thing that you used to do and now don't do. Okay, brilliant. Well done. Well fucking done. The fact that he's changed means that he's now in a position with which to criticize. This doesn't make any fucking sense. This is completely ludicrous.
the transphobia accusation. He said that he's a gateway to transphobia, right? He said your mischaracterization of Bill C-16 resulted in a surge of transphobia. The bill was created to add trans people as a protected group against hate crimes. Using the wrong pronoun would not result in anyone going to jail. In fact, to this day, 0 people have gone to jail. So don't even get me started with who is responsible for a surge in transphobia, because I have a pretty long list of people that Ethan would probably consider to be political allies that are actually responsible for people becoming annoyed or hateful towards trans people. And I know he would never condemn them because they're on his side politically.
Yeah, because you keep fucking making videos about them. Just let them bleed into obscurity. But of course, you and your fucking rightoid media talking head group of people, the fucking carousel of right-wing talking heads, find any one individual, tiny, isolated incident of a trans people being fucking, buck wild or whatever, like Jessica and Eve, who's just a shitty human, she's a fucking ridiculously awful human being, right? Absolute fucking shit stain on humanity, Jessica and Eve. But then suddenly you go, well, she's trans, so this has to be about her transness, right? And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. If you want to actually make the trans community have something, positive moving forward, because that's a group you're a fucking part of, Blaire, then you wouldn't signal boost it to shit talk other fucking trans people like all the fucking rest of the rightoids do. No, you're the problem, Blaire. It's your fault.
Again,
say it. Let's hear it.
No concept that anyone on his side of the political aisle could be doing anything wrong. Not to mention,
how are you going to say something like that? Like, oh, well, his friend, people he agrees with are the real reason transphobia exists, and then not say the names? What kind of argument is this? Pathetic.
People have been put in jail for misgendering in Canada. You have here a Canadian man jailed for calling his biologically female child as daughter. And is that something that's widespread?
Okay, we got a fact check.
Well, that's not using the wrong pronouns, though. That is failing to, as a parent, acknowledge your child's gender, right? And then adhere to the practices that have been set out by the medical professionals that deals with this person's transition. Right? That is 2 different things. What Jordan Peterson was saying when he was criticising Bill C-16 was saying if you use the wrong pronouns for somebody deliberately, you could go to jail, which is not what was happening.
Check that. Okay, surprise, surprise. Blaire Witch is doing conservative propaganda. She's a liar. I found the article. She's just a liar. Okay, that article is just so pathetically misleading. The father was thrown in jail for repeatedly violating a court's order. A ABC father who objected to his teenager's child gender transition therapy was arrested on Tuesday and put in jail until Friday for repeatedly speaking publicly about aspects of the case. The father, known as CD, has been charged with criminal contempt of allegedly violating court orders and is being held in custody until a bailed hearing on Friday. The criminal charges is one that, if found guilty, could send him to jail for 5 years. The case stems from the city's battle to prevent his child, AB, from receiving gender transition hormone therapy. But what began as a family court dispute now wound up in criminal charges due to allegations that the father persisted in violating court orders. The orders instructed him not to make public any information that would identify his child or the medical professionals involved, to call his child by the child's preferred name and gender pronouns, and not to share his opinions of the case publicly. The British Columbia Court of Appeal laid out the court orders that the dad was to abide by in January, and since then, the prosecutor service alleges he has failed to do so on multiple accounts. In June, the father gave an interview on a YouTube channel where he allegedly gave out identifying healthcare providers, revealed information about the daughter's mental health, or the child's mental health, medical status or treatment, and gave out information that could reveal who the person was and the mother's identity. He was charged with contempt of court. You're such a fucking liar. You are a pathetic propagandist liar. Dude.
Every fucking time. She just makes shit up. She literally just fabricates fucking everything. She's a fucking Weasley little liar, dude. What a piece of shit, dude. Can someone please enlighten Blaire that she's literally lying to her audience right now? Right, okay, I'll stop with the bit now. But it's just fucking horrendous. Every single fucking time, it's just lie after lie after lie. She doesn't ever present anything fairly, ever. It's unreal. Absolutely unreal.
Are you fucking serious right now? How pathetic can you be? Shame on you. Look at this headline. Let me show this. Look at this headline she's showing. Canadian man jailed for calling his biological feminine baby as daughter. That's a lie. He was charged for contempt of court, violating court orders many times. Blaire Witch, I expect a correction. You fucking propagandist liar. Shame on you. And by the way, I knew this was a fake story when I saw it, because all you got to do is stop and think and say, hey, that doesn't make sense. But because it backs your narrative, you're not really into doing that, are you?
Daughter.
Dumbass.
And is that something that's widespread? No. However,
is that even something that's true? No.
If you're to make the claim that 0 people have been jailed for misgendering in Canada, there's one right there. So
well, no, because actually that never happened. Bye, girl.
You're just factually incorrect with that as well.
Oh, you're a fucking liar. I just burned you. You better be apologizing. Where's the correction? We want a correction from Blaire. Bye, girl. Take the L this time.
He also accused Jordan Peterson of spreading COVID misinfo. Let's move on to that part of the accusation. So this happened after Jordan Peterson actually defended Joe Rogan after a
no, bro, it's literally from looking at his Twitter
list of 270 doctors condemned him for COVID misinformation, which, by the way, the word misinformation is almost always code for information I don't like, by the way. But
yeah, right, exactly.
Of all the people to make that accusation, Blaire, you really shouldn't be the one to do so. My God. Not that she's being hypocritical, because she isn't being hypocritical, because she just lies. And then if somebody says it's misinformation, she's like, well, you just don't like the information I'm giving. She's just giving herself an out with which to be able to justify the fact that she fucking lies, that she just fabricates shit.
Yeah, just information you don't like. Let's see, like, information I don't like. Let's see. What about 5G causing COVID? Is that information you don't like, or is that misinformation? Let me know what you think, Blaire.
That. However, he was absolutely right to defend Joe Rogan because, as it turns out, only 87 of those $270.
I shouldn't mock that. That's bad. That's bad. I shouldn't mock her for doing that. I'm gonna edit that out of the final VOD. Am I? No, I'm gonna be a bitch. I'm gonna be a bitch and leave it in.
Doctors were actually doctors. The list was full of consultants, veterinarians, a social worker, podcast hosts, and some.
Okay, I'm not familiar with this study. I don't really care about it. Just go to his Twitter. It's obvious. The dude straight up going, Justin Trudeau, over my dead body while I take a booster. I mean, the dude is unhinged. Stop.
Doctors, yes, but clearly.
I mean, that's not the same as anti-vax shit, but he has been. Economical with the truth, let's say.
Just an attempt to slander Joe Rogan. It's just a baseless attack to say 270 doctors united against him. When in fact,
I don't care about that study. I didn't talk about that study. Okay, so nice straw man. I did say, actually, I showed a tweet of him going, Jordan going, scientists. Okay, so whatever. I don't care about the study. That's not why I think he's spreading COVID misinfo.
Incorrect. So Jordan Peterson was objectively correct to defend Joe Rogan in that situation. And COVID misinfo coming from Ethan Klein is pretty rich, considering he said that the protests in the summer of 2020 didn't contribute at all to COVID, which you can agree with the protests.
Pretty incredible she dug that up. That tweet was up for like an hour. You know, there was a lot of studies at the time that said, basically, it was really interesting, right? There was these massive protests in the street during like really bad COVID. And there was a lot of studies coming out that, like, first of all, it was outdoors. This was like the alpha COVID. So it was outdoors. A lot of the people were masked. So it was not a good, it wasn't the good conditions to be spreading. And another weird effect of these massive protests is that more people were staying at home. So it turns out that there actually was not an increase in COVID due to the protests. But anyway, you know, I erased this tweet after about an hour. And because I was like, you know, I'm not 100% on this. I'm not sure that I stand by this tweet 100%. So I erased it. So I don't think that's proof. I erased it. So what do you want from me? Where did you even dig that up from?
And you can be on the side of the protest, but you can't deny that in the midst of a tens of thousands of people getting.
That was the conservative talking point, right? They're like, well, you guys.
She's not even like providing a study with which to counteract it. She's saying, well, I reckon that they did increase COVID because they were all in their place, in the same place, and all congregating. So yeah, it must have spread COVID. Even though Ethan is absolutely correct in that the overall impact of them was not particularly great when the studies were coming out. It probably did increase at least slightly, right? But the fact that most people were masked, the fact that it was outside, etc., and the fact that it was the alpha variant at the time, meant that they didn't cause a huge spike in cases or anything like that.
Go protest outside with masks, but you can't tell us to have like mega rallies indoors where masks are banned. You know, you can't tell us to not sit in tiny packed spaces of churches and sing. Sorry, but I mean, she's right? Probably gathering wasn't a good idea. That's why I erased the tweet.
Close contact in every major city in the country didn't really affect anything. Like, really?
Dude, I erased the tweet. Who are you arguing against? Like, are you going to mention that I erased it?
But we know when it's
no, of course not.
Politically convenient, your side can do literally anything. We got it. So
yeah, we got it. You know what she does? She picks out, like, she finds, I've made a whole totality of arguments that I've put forth. She finds the weakest, I'm not going to say weakest, but the ones that are easiest to address with, like, this tweet, and he's a hypocrite, and this study that he didn't care about. She doesn't address anything else. She just finds the ones that are, like, easiest to address to make it seem like she got a dub. Sad, pathetic.
I mean, that's what everybody does, to be fair, Ethan. Like, everybody just finds, like, the dumb shit people say and then amplify that with which to try and discredit them. Like, happens to everybody. I'm sure it will happen to me eventually, too.
Bye, girl.
So you can poke holes in Ethan's arguments all day long, as we've been doing, but what does all this really mean, right? It means, like I said, first of all, he is afraid of his own woke audience canceling him, so he's trying to, in my opinion, get ahead of it and condemning him and saying, look, I don't actually support Jordan Peterson anymore, please don't cancel me, which
nobody cares, dude.
Again, spineless. And I have to just say, on a human level,
spineless. I mean, you got to acknowledge that me erasing those and saying it and standing by my principles brought down a hellstorm of psychotic conservatives against me, as I expected it would. It was actually more than I expected, so I wouldn't exactly call that spineless. What I would call spineless is whatever docile attempt you are making to try to fit in with your daddy conservatives.
Jordan Peterson didn't deserve this. He didn't deserve
No! Jordan didn't deserve it! You guys, he didn't! Oh, poor Jordan. Poor Jordan Peterson, he didn't deserve it, most of all. Oh my God, you guys. We have to protect Jordan.
Deserve these attacks from Ethan.
No.
Jordan Peterson, from everything I can see, seems like a genuinely very nice man.
Deserve it. We must protect him. He's so helpless. we got to put him on the pedestal. We have to keep him. We have to put him in a sealed bubble. Oh, I have to run defense for him. Everybody does.
Who helps a lot of people and has changed a lot of people's lives for the better. There's a huge problem in society, and people have to have such blinders on to ever see someone like Jordan Peterson as extreme. It's the same as people who call me far right. I did a stream with Joe Rogan on
You are far right. Sorry.
Timcast a few months ago, and
I saw
think it was Vice wrote an article calling me far right.
You are-
If you think, I'm going to speak in third
I mean, she's not far right. She actually did a political compass. Where she said, "Oh well, I just come out a little bit like a libertarian, right? I come like slightly ANCAP or whatever." She fucking edited the result because when she actually did the poll contest, she came out as lib left. She had to edit the result so I wouldn't get mad at her for being too lefty. I mean, to be fair, it's likely to happen because the poll contest skews lib left. You have to be a literal fucking Nazi not to get lib left on that fucking test, right? But even so, like, she's just a fucking idiot. She's a clown and a grifter and a liar, and someone who sells their soul for money. That's all that she does. She doesn't have any principles. All she is someone who wants a media career, and she doesn't care how many marginalized groups that she belongs to. She shits on at the same time. Yeah, she literally edited it. It's crazy. I know because for shame I watched Vosh cover it. And at the same time, I plugged in the answers myself, and I got lib left, even though it came out as lib right. Unreal.
person and kind of just invoke the sort of like public perception there is of me, like the sort of
For someone who's not far right, you pretty much parrot every single point they do, so could have fooled me.
public figure version of my being, right? If you think Blaire White is far right, you have an extremely childlike view.
Okay, if you say so. I mean, based on what? Things you haven't said publicly?
An ignorant view of the actual opinions of people on the actual far right.
Yeah, she's just an agent provocateur. She doesn't really have like much political philosophy. She just likes making money from making people scared about trans people and complaining about cancel culture or whatever. Like, I've never seen her make any kind of economic prescriptions or anything like that. Never really. She mostly just talks about culture war shit.
If you think I'm far right or Jordan Peterson is extreme, like you have no clue, and that's
Unsupported claims. Nice, very persuasive.
okay if you don't have any clue, but stop slandering people because you don't have
slander.
So moving on to his attack
You have to protect Jordan against slander.
on Joe Rogan. So Joe, as of late, has
Yes, the classic fat man bad, strong man good. Let's see where this goes. By the
It's
way,
literally just Soy versus Chad Wojak, which to be fair is funny.
let's just acknowledge that the coward Blaire White did not acknowledge anything else. She did not acknowledge the "I'd rather die over my dead body" tweet. She did not acknowledge the conversion therapy tweet. She did not acknowledge the forced monogamy. So basically addressed 1/5 of my argument that I made against Jordan. Nicely done.
been hosting doctors on his podcast and having questions and conversations about vaccines that honestly are just not questions and conversations you see in mainstream media, which unfortunately is the lens and
Yeah, because he gets the doctors that are hawking like hydrochloroquine or whatever the new fake medicine is that's making the money. Yeah.
the standards by which most people see the world. So he's had Dr. Robert Malone on, who is a virologist and the chief architect of the mRNA technology, as well as
Oh yeah, that's the guy who's like, I invented mRNA, and let me tell you, it is gonna kill everybody. I don't know. And then this goon here. Oh, I forget, but he had some really crazy takes too.
his cardiologist Peter McCullough and
Cardiologist, what happened? Weren't you just criticizing the list of people that like 240 doctors, and you're like, some of them were dentists? So what is a cardiologist, qualified to talk about viruses?
and he's having conversations. He's asking questions. So just if you watch Joe Rogan's show, you would know that
But he doesn't challenge them. He never fucking challenges them. He just lets them spout their deranged shit. It's like, oh, well, they're a doctor. Yeah, well, Andrew Wakefield was a doctor, and he was the one who lied about vaccines specifically so he could sell an alternative vaccine for profit, right? There's a reason why these people who they feel like they've got this special sense that they can go against the rest of the whole scientific consensus around the fucking world, right? And the reasons why these people get signal boosted so often is because the controversy sells. We're in the attention economy. People don't want to hear someone come on and say, yes, vaccines are good, you should get one. This is how the vaccines work. Okay, great. They want to see contention. They want to see people someone to say the shit that people won't say. That's what they want to see. So that's why the people who are willing to go against the scientific consensus on these things, the people who get given the platform again and again and again, because they're the martyrs, the scientific martyrs, if you will, on these particular issues. Like, it's just unreal that people don't get why these people are promoted in the way that they are, right?
He doesn't claim to be any sort of expert on vaccines or viruses or anything. He simply asked questions. In fact, I went to one of his shows recently here in Austin, and he opened up by saying how stupid it was that people really saw him as some sort of health expert, that you have to be an
I
idiot
went to a show and I was in the front row and I was going, Daddy Rogan, please. I don't think trans athletes should compete. Pick me too. I think J.K. Rowling needs to be defended at all costs. We must protect Jordan. Pick me. I'm one of the good ones.
to take health advice from him because he isn't an expert. He's simply having conversations, which in a sane world should be allowed. Joe has never once told people to not get vaccinated.
It's not allowed. He has the biggest show in the world, being paid over $100 million from things I've heard. What do you mean it's not allowed? It's clearly allowed. What's not allowed, apparently, according to her and people like her, is any measure of criticism against them. They're trying to cancel him. Shut up, dude. By the way, when I say dude, I'm using that colloquially. I don't want people to be like.
Also, Joe Rogan literally has told like young people, young healthy people, so on and so forth, not to get the vaccine. He's explicitly done that.
I call everybody dude. Okay, just want to make that clear. Sorry, I saw it coming.
Vaccinated. And we talked about this even when I was on his show. He's never told anyone that. He simply said that each individual person should have the freedom and autonomy to make their own decisions about their own bodies and health based on their own risk-benefit analysis.
I totally agree with that, actually. Totally agree. What's weird is that they can't actually follow that through all the way to what their beliefs are. I don't believe people should be forced to get the vaccine. I don't. I'm American. I believe people have the freedom to choose what goes in their body, 100%. What I also believe is that schools, businesses can decide that they want to protect their employees, protect themselves, protect their business, and say, you got to get vaccinated if you want to come in here. So you, Blaire White, if you don't want to get the vaccine, that's fine. I don't want to send stormtroopers in your house and tie you down and shoot you up with vaccine. But if, Costco says we don't let anyone in who's not vaccinated, then I also support that. That's what it is. But they won't allow that other aspect. They want the freedom for themselves, but not for other people.
Which again, in a sane world, would not be radical, would not be something people should be attacking anyone for.
I don't attack anyone. I agree with that.
He's always advocated, talk to your doctor and do what's right for
Okay, when are you going to stop simping for Joe Rogan and talk about how I'm wrong?
you. In the meantime, I have questions. Questions should not be a sin. Questions should not be censored. We are living in a very terrifying time.
Dude, literally the most popular show in the world. This is part of like the victim complex where they're trying to convince the world and themselves, really. They like this narrative that they're the underdog and they're being censored and the world's out to them. Meanwhile, while having the biggest platforms, getting the biggest paychecks, who exactly is censoring you?
Time when you are not allowed to question things.
You're allowed. You're doing it right
He's
now.
He's not asking questions. He's not challenging anything. He's just he's giving people a platform with which to spout whatever kind of deranged shit they want, and they go, yeah, I've heard of that fucking, electric ham face. Yeah, no, it's terrible when that happens.
Dude.
Who has in the past begged
Oh my God! Dude, she's taking the dumbest, cheapest shots. Of course, she removed the date, by the way.
to do his podcast, which is so typical of these very woke creators. By the way, I have a list of about 10 to 20 people.
You
who are on
literally are going to cut the date out. All right. Actually, I erased all my old tweets, so I don't even know what this was, but it must have been like 5 years ago. Literally 5 years ago, before COVID, before all this, before I moved to Texas and went down the rabbit hole of radicalism. So, dude, this means nothing. This literally means nothing. The fact that you would bring this up and remove the date is just another pathetic attempt. Lowest hanging fruit. Sad, dude.
that sort of side of the YouTube sphere who have in the past asked me multiple times to come on their channel, work with them, kiss my ass, whatever.
I don't want you on my show. Don't worry.
And then 6 months later, have an I Hate Blaire White video.
Yeah, she goes, they were begging me to come on the show, and then 6 months later, made a video about me. This was probably 5 years ago. You literally cut the date out. I mean, shame on you. You are actually a propagandist. Also, somebody inviting you to be on their show and then making a video about you 6 months later doesn't necessarily contradict itself. People can want to have you on to talk about problems they have with you. So, sorry that you say that to comfort yourself, but it's not necessarily true.
Typical behavior of these little chihuahuas that want to bite at people's ankles and then...
Aren't you that?
So his attacks on Joe when it's followed. Joe Rogan, who lives on elk meat, egg yolk, and human growth hormone with lungs full of tar, thinks he's healthier than everyone. First of all, that's like something a 5-year-old would say. You think you're healthier than everyone. He's never said anything as stupid as that.
What? That's one of his main talking points these past years about how fat people are going to die anyway. Just take care of yourself and you don't have to worry about it. Sorry, but you're wrong. That actually is one of his talking points.
Maybe that's how your brain perceives it because you might...
don't know.
Ethan, elk meat is healthy. Egg yolk is healthy. And human growth hormone
is healthy. Yeah, elk meat and egg yolk are, I guess, yeah, they're healthy in moderation, not for every meal. I mean, what the hell are we kidding ourselves here?
Talked about being on TRT, talked about taking hormones. I take hormones. I'm a very healthy person. Lots of people take hormones.
Dude, I'm talking about... Come on. Seriously, Blaire. I'm assuming Blaire is referring to, she probably has medical grade testosterone, or I don't know what kind of hormones she's referring to that people who are transitioning get from their...
Estrogen, Ethan. Estrogen. She's a woman. She takes estrogen.
Doctors. Joe Rogan is on steroids and human growth hormone. Those are very different substances than what trans people take during a transition.
Menopausal women, men, trans women, trans men.
Dude, human growth hormone literally increases the size of your heart. I'm pretty sure that whatever you take to transition doesn't increase the size of your heart and your lungs and your organs that are bursting out of your body. Like, not all. You can't be like, I take hormones, so therefore all hormones aren't unhealthy. What kind of argument is that? Some stuff is healthy, some stuff is fine, some stuff is safe. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can take.
Something tells me that if he were criticizing me, he wouldn't include my use of hormones.
Oh my God, dude. Seriously? Do you take human growth hormone?
In the attacks on me.
Of course not.
So why would you do it to
Of course not, because it's not a valid excuse. Of course I wouldn't do that. Why would I do that? That's not valid.
Joe? Why is it okay for someone like me to be on hormones but not Joe? And the implication that elk meat and egg yolk is unhealthy, like, what do you live on?
I never claimed to be healthy. Here we go, fat man bad.
And chicken nuggets?
Yep.
Joe Rogan doesn't think he's healthier than everyone, but anyone with a set of 2 working eyes could see he's much healthier than you.
Fat man bad. When did I ever say I was healthier than Joe Rogan? When? Point it out. Nobody said it. That's a red herring.
I mean, that's true, and it's literally in her video title as well. Her video title literally said Ethan Klein thinks he is smarter than Joe Rogan, than John Peterson, and healthier than Joe Rogan, which he literally never said either of those times. That's just like an implication that she's trying to derive from it.
Straw hat. It's another fallacy. All the fallacies. Combine them all the fallacies, and that's what you get. You get Blaire White.
Ethan. And if you think that sounds mean, why is it mean when people question Ethan's health, but not mean when they question Joe's? Is it because Ethan...
Well, because the reason that you're questioning my health has nothing to do with what I actually said, right? I didn't say I'm healthy. I didn't say healthy at every size or anything like that. I said Joe Rogan is so quick to criticize fat people, but he's not one that's in spectacular health. You know, everyone act like he is the perfect model of perfect health. He's just not. He works out a lot. That's the point. You calling me fat or whatever is literally besides the point and has nothing to do with anything I said. That's why. Not that I care. Just answering your question.
really is unhealthy, and y'all know in your heart that Joe isn't. Exactly. And who gives a shit if Ethan is unhealthy? I don't care what he eats. I don't care how he lives his life. His lifestyle has no effect on me. However, again, you cannot throw rocks in a glass house.
Oh my God, dude. She really thinks she's so clever. I never said I was healthier. Okay.
And I'm not taking health advice from either Joe Rogan or Ethan Klein because neither one of them are my doctor. However, if I had to pick one of them to be my doctor, it would definitely not be this one.
All right. Well, I'm not volunteering, so don't worry.
He went on to say, this MFer is such a bitch that when he got COVID, he threw the kitchen sink at it. If you're so healthy, just write it out like you say a man should. Again, he's never said that.
Bullshit. You are a liar. He has said that kind of shit so many times. He literally said on his podcast, someone said, do you think young people should get the vaccine? And Joe Rogan literally said, if you're young and healthy, no, I don't think you should get the vaccine. So what does that mean, Blaire?
Exactly.
If he doesn't think you should get the vaccine, if you're young and healthy, then what exactly are you supposed to do when you catch COVID? Go to your private doctor that has a laboratory full of experimental drugs like Joe Rogan did? He literally said, write it out.
Never said that. He's never said anything as stupid as men should write out COVID.
Well, I hate to tell you, but he pretty much has, so.
I mean,
It's like there's a filter on Ethan's brain that he can
unless you can pull up the actual tweet, Ethan, like, that will have to remain to be seen.
only perceive like the most childlike caricatures of people he's beefing with. Like, and should we constitute what Ethan is saying here as COVID misinfo? Because vaccinated or not, when you do contract COVID or any sickness, a common cold, you are supposed to throw the kitchen sink at it. You're supposed to take vitamin D.
If you're supposed to throw the kitchen sink at it, then why not get vaccinated? You know what I mean? Vaccinations are free, readily available, and you don't need a private doctor with like a, you know, with a whole laboratory of drugs, because they're not doing the most important and the most obvious thing and the most humane thing. I do think you should throw the kitchen sink at it, but Joe Rogan's like, don't get vaccinated, and then all of a sudden when he gets sick, he has his private doctor come and give him experimental drugs. Stop it.
Yeah, like, if you're not getting vaccinated, you're literally, definitionally not throwing the kitchen sink at it. Sure, maybe you're rich enough to be able to drink some kind of antibody cocktail when you do get sick. No one else has that fucking luxury, Joe.
It's ridiculous.
Zinc, vitamin C, eat healthy. Like, why is that something to attack someone about? Like,
You're totally and intentionally and ridiculously misrepresenting and missing the point. It's so bad.
what the fuck is wrong with you? For you to demonize throwing the kitchen sink and taking vitamins, like, are you putting people at risk, Ethan? Are people going to read your tweets and think that it's a bad idea to take vitamins when they're sick with
Oh my God, dude, you can't actually believe that that's anything there in my tweet.
anything, by the way? And tar in his lungs. Joe doesn't smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, we had a whole debate about this on the podcast. I don't know why the dude literally smokes
Hey,
weed
thanks for the follow, Paul King.
on
Much
every
appreciated.
episode of the
Welcome
podcast.
to the
Weed has like
stream.
4 times more tar in it than cigarettes if you combust it or vape it or anything. Why does everyone act like smoking weed doesn't put tar in your lungs? It puts more tar in your lungs. This is not rocket
literally.
science.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And if it's a dig
Very
about
true.
smoking weed, then we're demonizing weed too. Like,
No! I'm not demonizing weed. I'm just making a point, a very easy to understand, clear point that you are intellectually either too dishonest or too stupid to actually register.
like,
Probably
what is
both.
wrong with you?
Of course I'm not demonizing weed. That is just so dumb.
Things Ethan Klein has no concept of: eating healthy, smoking weed, taking vitamins.
Yeah.
Good to know. What this all really comes down to is I genuinely feel bad for anyone, especially like kids who are watching Ethan Klein or reading his
I feel
tweets and
so
thinking
bad.
in any way that this guy knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Oh,
About
the kids. We have to think about the kids watching Ethan. He says taking vitamins is bad.
almost anything. Because I haven't seen one thing in all the tweets I've read from him, one even like small aspect of what he says that has any validity or truth behind it.
Okay, explain to me why
Glass houses, Blaire. Come on.
Conversion therapy is a good thing. Go ahead. I'll wait for your next video. Because Jordan Peterson said conversion therapy is moral grandstanding. So I eagerly await you to defend that.
You almost have to try this hard to be wrong. Like, a normal person is like accidentally wrong about things. Ethan is almost intentionally like, I'm just gonna pick the worst possible takes.
Take it from the person that turns off comments, erases dates, take things out of context, puts words in my mouth, continually argues against non-arguments, straw man arguments. There's nothing here.
I'm going to say the exact opposite of what is true, and I'm going to completely mischaracterize everyone. And honestly, when exactly did it become the standard that rather than countering someone's speech, debunking them, proving them wrong, when did that switch to actually we have to silence our opponent's speech, we have to censor them, we have to...
He's not being silenced, he's not being censored. Jordan Peterson has a platform. If Jordan Peterson wants to say the same shit that he said on Ethan Klein's podcast, or if, you know, Joe Rogan wants to say whatever, he can just go fucking somewhere else. Just because one platform or one content creator doesn't want to host that person's content, that's not the same thing as the government telling them they have to shut up and put them in prison. That's not the same thing, Blaire.
To erase them, we have to pretend as if they didn't say it rather than say something back to them.
When did I do that? That's part of this victim narrative. Everybody is censoring us, despite us having huge platforms and being paid millions on millions of dollars. Excuse me, it's my property. I can erase the freaking videos if I want. Period.
What you're really doing is actually proving that your ideas, your opinions, and your stances have no merit whatsoever. They can't stand up on their own. And honestly, Jordan Peterson is not the smartest person on the planet. Joe Rogan is not the healthiest person on the planet. But
How do you know that? How dare you say Jordan Peterson's not the smartest person on the planet? How dare you? We need to...
Clearly, with my degree in my PhD in clinical psychology, I am the smartest person ever to have lived to be able to comment on the postmodern neo-Marxist dogma that has infected the country that we live in to try and take a to be able to turn the children of the wealthy against white people in pursuit of a wokeness cult.
To defend him. We need to protect him. This is an outrageous attack.
Peterson is smarter than Ethan Klein.
Yeah, I agree. Probably true.
And Joe Rogan is healthier than Ethan Klein.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Never made those points.
And that's on period. Love you guys.
And that's on period. Well, girl, what can you say about a video this bad, folks? It's all bad. It's all pandering. It's all pathetic. Blaire White, I hope it's worth the views. Because, let's be honest, a lot of conservatives don't even think you should exist. So, enjoy living amongst people like that.
Guys, make sure you subscribe to this channel as well as my second channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram because I post on there way more than I do.
I'm not gonna let you show on my channel, Blaire. But anyway, yeah, that was pretty succinct. That Blaire White is in fact a liar, is in fact a grifter, and is in fact completely fucking dishonest in every single possible way, and it's a piece of shit. And well done, Ethan, for calling her out. Good video.